whakatakataho ki te tonga. Kia mākina kina ki uta, kia mātaratara ki tai. E hi aki ana te atakura, he tio, he huka, he ho hu, ti hei Māori ora. If you just move it on, please, Heidi. So kia ora, everyone. Welcome to today's Lunch and Learn. My name's Jane Hamer, and I'm hosting today. Just a little brief reminder about the Paediatric Society of New Zealand and that it's an organisation of health professionals looking to support the health and wellbeing of children tamariki and rangatahi across Aotearoa, New Zealand. As a group, we offer opportunity to engage with other professionals with similar interests. We support the Child and Youth Clinical Network, and the Paediatric Society also offers opportunity for education grants. Thanks, Heidi. So today we are very lucky. The presentation today, Growing Well Together, Collaborative Practices with Allied Health and whānau for tamariki and rangatahi with Down syndrome. So this presentation shares the findings of a comprehensive literature review of physiotherapy and occupational and I'm assuming speech therapy interventions conducted by the Child and Youth and Disability Clinical Network and the New Zealand Child and Youth Epidemiology Service through the University of Otago. We are really lucky today to have Heidi, who is a speech language therapist working at the Child Development Service in Hutt Valley. Sara, who is a paediatric physio at Habit Health in Dunedin. And Merryn, who is a physiotherapist working across health, education and private practice. So these three women all volunteered to assist with updating the Down syndrome clinical guidelines, and we're very grateful and lucky that their expertise and allied health lens has contributed to these guidelines to enhance the well-being of tamariki, rangatahi and their whānau. Thank you, ladies.
Kia ora, my name's Sara. I am just going to share a little bit of background information about the Down syndrome clinical guidance workstream. So the people who are a part of this workstream are Rosemary Marks, who's a retired paediatrician and convener of the group. And then joining Rosemary, we've got Merryn. She's a physiotherapist. And she led the physical intervention subgroup. And Merryn is from Auckland. Anna has been a part of the group as well, and she is currently in Waikato. Aris is a paediatrician in Canterbury. Heidi, speech language therapist who is in the Wellington region. Janine is a paediatrician who is also in Canterbury. And then myself, I'm a physiotherapist in Dunedin. And we also had Geraldine, who was part of the group in the early stages, and she's a nurse practitioner from Palmerston North. So I think the key thing to acknowledge is that this group of people who have been a part of this bring a wide range of experience and different views across New Zealand and with different background and experience to contribute. You can move on. So the background to how this all kind of has been happening in terms of the Down syndrome clinical guidance, a group of stakeholders and clinicians gathered in 2020. So that's sort of 6 years ago now. The group reviewed the existing clinical document, and there's a task to review and update this. And as a group, we found that the current document had little or no mention of allied health or best practice guidelines for therapists who are working with young people with Down syndrome. So the physical intervention subgroup came together to complete a separate piece of work. And that began with a survey that was sent out regionally to health professionals to participate. So that Heidi will share some more information about that. And then a literature review was completed with the support from the New Zealand Child and Youth Epidemiology Service at the University of Otago. You can change slides. Over to you, Heidi.
So I'm Heidi from Child Development Heart Hospital, and I'm going to discuss the survey as Sara mentioned. So we invited professionals to complete a survey through SurveyMonkey a few years ago now, and received 169 responses. At the time, approximately half of those people were working in healthcare, and the remainder in other sectors like education, NGOs, private practices, and academic institutions. Representation of the professionals who did the survey included speech therapists, occupational therapists, physiotherapists, and pediatricians. They were all of similar amounts of representation. And then there were also teachers, psychologists, VNDTs, team leaders, and other members who participated. At the time, existing services and pathways known by professionals included CDS, Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Health Down syndrome guidelines, early intervention pathways, and organizations like the New Zealand Down Syndrome Association. You can see on this slide on the left of it, information for families, information on intervention processes, and information on referral pathways were the highest reported by professionals to be beneficial, to be of need. And then other information that professionals felt would be beneficial included screening guidelines, as well as the information on the side in the bar graph, which was things like counseling and support information, growth charts, and particularly information on or in a Maori worldview and in Te Reo Maori. And so we got a lot of feedback from the participants of the survey, and a large number of the professionals felt that the systems and pathways that were present didn't necessarily work well or weren't quite fit for purpose. And they provided some really rich examples, which I'll leave there for you to read. Of those, the biggest areas seem to be around capacity and wait times for services, specific pathways, support for children and people with Down syndrome in education, as well as the transitions into adulthood and even that support in adulthood. Additional areas that didn't feel to be working for professionals also included connection and collaborations between services, equal access for all whānau to information and support. Many of the professionals reported it was often driven by the caregivers, culturally sensitive service provision and resources in Te Reo Maori, behavior support, and there were also reports of ad hoc processes for therapy support. So the information that professionals provided we found to be quite insightful, and as part of that resounding request for more information, particularly on interventions, the workstream initiated the literature review, which is predominantly physio and occupational therapy based, that Merryn will now discuss further.
Cool, thanks Heidi. So we started the process back in 2022 to do a literature review to find out what evidence was out there. This was completed by the Child Development and Disability Clinical Network prior to its transition to the current Neurodevelopment Clinical Network, and the New Epidemiology Service at the University of Otago. So I'd really like to acknowledge Judith Adams from the NZCYES and Parry, who was a great support for us when we were writing up the review. So there were some key points that we focused on as we do when we review the literature. So we had a rigorous methodology and Judith did a great job for us, searching through all the articles with some specific PICO questions that we had developed. We used the traffic light system, which was developed by Novak and McIntyre in 2010, which provides clear green, yellow, and red light indicators for clinical implementation. And we really wanted to understand how to balance this research with clinical reasoning and whānau-centred goals to ensure interventions are both evidence-based and person-specific. Really important to note that this guidance is designed to support and not replace any individualised assessment and collaborative goal setting with families. Thanks, Heidi. So we absolutely focused or used the ICF as a framework, as well as the F words, our favourite word, which is by CanChild. And we really, when we got all the articles back, we grouped them into the different areas. So we grouped them into fitness, function and friends, and family and future. So we used this framework to then, I guess, theme or categorize the articles that were found. And when I say we, it was Judith. She did a great job. Thanks, Heidi. So the traffic light system, if you're not familiar with it, it is a framework that provides a guide to allow busy parents, carers, and clinicians to start conversations about what to do and what not to do. It empowers families to make informed and evidence-based decisions. It also provides reassurance that there's plenty of good evidence what to do and what not to do in efforts to improve the lives of neurodisability. So there's a few things I just want to comment on this. This traffic light system was initially designed for children with cerebral palsy and their families and carers. So we adapted the framework in terms of looking at these levels of evidence. But I also want to really highlight that the traffic light system is very much an indicator of current published evidence available. So we also want to acknowledge and encourage people not to throw the baby out with the bathwater, that just because it hasn't been researched and it doesn't mean an intervention doesn't work. So our aim was really just to look at what has been published to give us some indication of what interventions we might want to spend more time doing, but that doesn't mean that there isn't other interventions that have not been studied yet. That would be really helpful. Thanks, Heidi. So as with all the pillars of evidence, we really wanted to think about from a holistic approach what was collaborative and that would help guide allied health practitioners as their clinical reasoning. Thinking about the best available research evidence, which is very much what the systematic review was around, but also acknowledging the therapist, the organisation and the community expertise, as well as what was important to the family and child in terms of their goal setting. So we the literature research was done on allied health interventions in children with Down syndrome, and 48 systematic reviews were analysed further. In general, the quality of the evidence relating to the efficacy of allied health interventions for children and adolescents is low, very low or non-existent. This does not mean the intervention is not good per se. It's more that the research and how the studies the intervention is of low quality. So it's a really common challenge, as we know, for all childhood disability research. And this is only one pillar of evidence in the evidence-based practice. So we came out with a 48-page table with a summary of results. So Judith did a great job in summarising all the published evidence that met the criteria. And we then used the themes of activities that were documented. And so we've taken one snapshot for fitness, which is one of the F words, thinking about how do we keep our body fit and active, especially as we grow from childhood into adolescence and young adulthood. And so these were some of the themes that came out that the studies were had looked at. So virtual gaming, exergaming was quite popular. There was hypnotherapy. Orthoses was debatable, so some of it was red light, some of it was yellow, orange light. So there has been a debate in the literature for some time now whether using orthotics for flat feet is beneficial or not, and it was not clear in the literature that's currently available. Treadmill training, lots of studies have looked into whether treadmill training is helpful for a young person learning to walk, and it has been well documented that use of treadmill accelerates a young person in their walking ability and function. And so the treadmill walking was got a green light. Yay! We get quite excited when there's a green light. So there were some other studies in whole body vibration, looking some on strength training, some on aerobic exercise and general exercise, including balance. Thanks, Heidi. These were some of the other interesting findings. They were looking at cycling, looking at health education, looking at occupational therapy and fine motor skills. Infant massage therapy got a green light. Respiratory muscle training got a yellow light, which is interesting because that was one of the feedback from when we did the survey about respiratory support for children with Down syndrome. And the antioxidant supplementation got a red light. So some of it is applicable to us, and some of it maybe not so much. Now, we haven't actually given the table is way too long for us to share. So the 48 pages then got summarized by Perry at the network into a 6-page summary table, which is really helpful. And we are working to have that available on the PSNZ website. So it's freely available to anyone in the community, whether it's clinicians or whānau who would like to go and read up more about these specific intervention approaches, and see if it's something that they would like to explore further for their child, linked with their goals. So whilst it was really interesting to have a look at the table in terms of what was available, I think lots of us who are in the rehab space can find it quite frustrating that there isn't clear evidence for what we do, but that doesn't mean we don't stop what we're doing. So it was a good process to go through, but really reiterated that we need more evidence, which I think is our common final conclusion when we read a lot of the studies that we do. Thanks, Heidi. So we then really wanted to take some of this information and be able to share it specifically in a family-friendly language. This the table that Judith and Perry have done was very clinical based and very not necessarily family-friendly language that people that everyone may be able to understand and apply. So we started working with a team from Kids Health in terms of developing a whānau-centred resource that would be helpful. And our lovely Anna, who's in the working group, who I believe is on the call with us, we started working with them, and we have, Anna's done a great piece of work in updating the Down syndrome page on the Kids Health website for families to access. So I think Anna and Rosie will be talking about this a little bit more next month, but we were debating whether we put some of this information from the literature review onto this page, but we decided that we would rather put it on a page that perhaps will link, but it's not this information from the literature review is really much more aimed at clinicians to help guide interventions. But of course, families would be welcome to read through it if they wanted to learn more about a specific intervention. So I'd really encourage everyone to go and have a look at the Down syndrome page on Kids Health website. And arranged a fantastic video that's been done about for children learning what is Down syndrome So this is a really great resource that's available for everybody, and I'd encourage you to go and have a look when you have 2 minutes. And of course, feel free to share that with families as appropriate. So our next session is next month, and Rosie and Anna will be talking more about the clinical guidance documents that we've been working on for the past 6 years now. A lot of them have been published and are available on the Starship website, and the team will talk through that more next month. And wondering if anyone has any questions for us. That's it from us.
Yeah, if anybody, if anyone in that is here now, oh, I see Don's put a hand up, but I think if anybody here does have any questions, I just want to clarify that what we normally do in the Lunch and Learn is we have one presentation session, and then the next month is the knowledge translation session. And we've rejigged it for this time. So as Merryn says, we've had this presentation here from Sara, Heidi and Merryn, specifically talking about the literature review and the allied health component of the bigger piece of work that Rosie has been leading. So I encourage you all to come back next month to listen to what Rosie and Anna will be presenting about the wider piece of work. And just if anybody has any questions relating to Sara and Heidi and Merryn's work that you would like to ask them today. So Donna, you had your hand up. You still got a question? You're on mute.
I think my question, it might be better for the next session. It was just wanting to know, like, the in terms of reviewing the guideline, like, reviewing the information on the kids' health side, was there like a team of whānau that were involved in that, or?
I see Rosie's put her hand up. I'm going to let Rosie answer that question.
Oh, you're muted, Rosie. Yep.
Right. I'm unmuted. What was your question, Donna?
Just whether with developing the resources on the kids' health website, whether there was a team of whānau that were putting input in around the language use and things, or how that looked.
We've relied very heavily on Anna's input. We do have a couple of members of our team have family members with Down syndrome, and I think that's been very helpful to have, excuse me, a perspective of other members of the family about what happens to people with Down syndrome. So I think that's been really useful. What I'm planning to cover next time is really the where you can find the information. And I had to have Storming the Bestie because it is on the 14th. It's actually on the 14th of July. Mm-hmm. So, which is the day that the Bestie fell. So hopefully what we will achieve by the work we've done is mean that all children in New Zealand who have Down syndrome and all whānau have access to information that enables them to give their child, their young person, the best life. I think that's probably all I've got to say, although I did just have a little sneaky look at the Kids Health website, and I don't think the video is up yet. Okay. I can't find it, but we'll talk to Catherine about that and make sure it does get there, because it's all ready to go.
Thank you, Rosie. Does anybody else have any questions? Because I've got one. Okay, my question is, if no one else puts a hand up, please feel free to unmute yourself. So my question is, based on all of that, like really comprehensive feedback from the survey from clinicians about what were some of the things that were missing in the kitty for clinicians to be able to support children and whānau with, and the work that is going on in relation to resources that are there for children and families. Have you as a group thought of other ways that this can be disseminated more? So, you know, we know that when some research happens, okay, it's hard for research to research in the childhood disability context. You've talked about the evidence, and then it's also hard for that research to be actually implemented into practice. Is there like a plan of how what you've found on the traffic lights to be shared back more widely? Dissemination and training and do this, don't do this kind of thing?
How much money have you got to give us, Jane?
I know. I'm just saying, like, it's great that 33 people have come today, but, you know, like, you know, is there another way that we could be thinking about looking at who answered the survey? Look, a lot of people replied. Is there a way to capture Ministry of Education or schools, or is there a way to you know, have a little thing for child development, or I don't know. I just got thinking how it can be shared more.
I think that's a really good point, Jane, and I think we need to perhaps have a little chat about it. We have been rather head down, bum up, getting the various. So what I will talk about next time in July is the stuff that we have on the Starship Guidelines site, which is aimed at health professionals, but is open to anybody. And we do know that families do go to the Starship Guidelines site. We've called it guidance because we haven't had the resources to go through the exhaustive process of literature searching that you need. But I think we've got to a pretty good place, and we've accessed some international resources as well. So I think it's certainly better than what we had before, I believe. And I hope it's more digestible than what we had before.
I guess, Jane, just from my perspective with the allied health intervention, like there's a lot of information in this table. And so our aim was that, you know, you might get a referral for a young person with Down syndrome and you hear what their family's goals are and you do your assessment. And then this might be a resource that people would go and access online on the PSNZ website to see, oh, well, the family's goals is to get the child up and walking. Then they might go and have a look at the study on treadmills, and Judith has summarised it really clearly with outcome measures and what you need to be looking at. So it is just very much a review of what's available currently, that it's there as a resource for people to access when you've got the child and family on your caseload.
And it's a review very specific to, I guess, particular things like walking, as opposed to all of the components of the F words, for example, or feeding and communication-based things from SLT perspective. So it's a piece to the puzzle, Jane.
And I would just add that Merryn did a bit of a search to see if much new had come in since the literature review was done, and it hasn't. And part of the problem is that, frankly, child disability is not a sexy subject. It doesn't garner millions of donations for research or anything else. So it is difficult, and some of it is because it's effectively an evidence-free zone. So people do the practicals, and you all, most of the people on the call, I think, are probably allied health people, and you do what you have done and what other people do and which seems to work, and that's fine. But many don't have the resources to go and do a research study. So the information that's out there is limited. So maybe that's something else we need to advocate for, is more research.
And I guess, more people on the waka, right? You know, like not just health, but education or parent-to-parent groups, like, you know, thinking of other people that partner with families and the way to direct people that perhaps are not health professionals to the Starship guidelines. I think there are many people that don't think about going to the Starship guidelines.
I wouldn't be wanting to direct the general public to the Starship guidelines because they are quite technical, but that's really the role of Kids Health. I think some people will find them and find them useful, but the role of Kids Health is to disseminate that information to people who need it, who are looking for it.
I think that's what worked so well there, Rosie, like, but with Catherine, Anna, and guiding that process in terms of Catherine from Kids Health was sharing how they try and write information and share the information in a family-friendly way. And then we were, I mean, that's Anna really, who worked really hard on that, shared the content and they put it together. So it was a really lovely collaborative piece of work. The only other one thing, Jane, can I just clarify once, if anyone is interested in going and reading the full, there's 2 documents. So this summary will be on the PSNZ website, but then there's another 48-page, which has got a lot more detail and specifics to each study. So I guess it's just depending how much information you want to go and read up more from the literature review.
Well,
and I don't believe that's on the website yet, but I think it's coming, isn't it, Katie?
And is it going to be something that's available to everybody or only if you're a member of PSNZ?
No, it will be available to anyone.
Yes, so the website has kind of 2 sides. There's Members Hub and then there's the website. And the website is open for everybody and that's where it will be.
Well, as the host of today, I'd like to say we've just hit the 12:30 mark, and as usual, not enough time. And please, everybody, come back to next month, maybe with your crepes or your baguettes on hand for the Bastille Day storming presentation by Rosie and Anna, and we really look forward to that session next week. So please join us again next month. Please join us again next month. Thank you everyone for coming. I'm just going to close with a karakia. Unuhia, unuhia, unuhia ki te uru tapanui. Kia wātia, kia mama te nako, te tinana, te wairoa I te ara tangata. Koia rā e rongo, whakairea aki ki runga, kia tina, huie, taikie. Thank you everyone for joining us. We look forward to you coming back next month.